Hello Trekkies and Trekkers, welcome back to the Star Trek podcast. I'm your host Dorinda and I recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek TNG. Today we recap the episode Suddenly Human, and this time there was no Trek friend available, so I'm doing this episode alone. I'm always looking for Trek friends who would like to recap with me the episode, so if you are interested, let me know on one of my social medias of the podcast, or of course email me at trekkie1982sto@hotmail.com. From time to time I will make a bonus episode and then I will talk Star Trek in general with Trekkies from all over the world. So if you have any Trek subjects you like to talk about, let me know and I will see when I can make this episode. You can send an email with your name, subject, where to reach you, and if you like to be my guest, to trekkie1982sto@gmail.com. I'm gonna repeat that for you. trekkie1982sto@hotmail.com. I will contact you as soon as possible. You can also use this email address if you have any questions, suggestions, ideas, or something else you'd like to discuss. I would appreciate it if you like this video, comment on the episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family. And now for the plot of the episode. The Enterprise responds to a distress call from a Talian vessel. They rescue 5 teenage crew members, 4 Talian and 1 human, Jhonno. Jhonno keeps to himself, but shows strict obedience to Captain Picard, which, together with some unexplained past injuries, lead Dr. Crusher to suggest Jhonno may have been physically abused. It is determined that Jhonno is Jeremiah Rossa, a long-lost Federation citizen. His grandmother is a Starfleet admiral and he was orphaned 10 years before when his parents were killed in a skirmish with the Talians. When the captain introduces the topic of Jhonno's human family, Jhonno becomes angry. After persistent effort by Picard, Jhonno's memories of the attack begin to return and a friendship develops between Jhonno and Wesley Crusher. A Talian ship arrives. Its captain Endor asks for a status of his son, who happens to be Jhonno. Endor had claimed Jhonno as his own son after the boy's parents were killed 10 years earlier. In keeping with the Talian traditions of adopting the children of slain enemies to replace children of their own who die in battle. Endor explained Jhonno's injuries as the products of a boy trying to impress his father by participating in high-risk activities. Picard seems satisfied and observed that Endor seems to care for Jhonno. Picard allowed Endor to see Jhonno, but when Jhonno said he wants to stay with Endor, Picard suspects the boy is afraid to say he wants to stay in the Federation. Endor insists that Jhonno will come back with him, even the results in a war between the Talian and the Federation. Returning to his vessel, Endor calls for reinforcement and Picard decides to try to convince Jhonno to stay. After Jhonno receives a message from his grandmother, Picard takes the boy to play a form of racquetball, where Jhonno breaks down and cries. The crew believes they are making progress with the boy. But that night, Jhonno stabs the sleeping Picard in the chest. The blade deflects off Picard's sternum, causing only a minor wound. But the problem of where Jhonno would live is now compounded due to the assault he has just committed. When Picard learns that Jhonno feels he cannot betray Ender by befriending Picard, the captain realizes he has been trying to impose his wishes on the boy. Just as Ender's patience is about to run out, Picard contacts the Talians and lets them know that he will let Jhonno go back. Jhonno bids Picard farewell with the Talarian ritual that is normally reserved for family members. So, I am going to rewatch this episode. I hope you do too. And I will be back then with the recap. So we see in the first scene that, of course, they got that distress call, and right away, Data is telling Picard, well, this is the tactics, and blah 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 blah. And I don't know, but did you notice that Riker has this reaction and face of, okay, we need to be careful, but also we need to aid them because that's what Starfleet does. And I think that is right away the swear what of this whole, in one way, this whole episode is. The boys have been brought back to the sickbay, and Dr. Crusher is examining them, and she talks a bit to Jhonno. And my first thought was, why are you so attracted and attached to, or triggered to Jhonno? And the only thing that I can remind me of, and I had this little talk with Eve about it, that Dr. Crusher really isn't a good mom. And so I've been wondering if this scene reminds me, or reminds her of her son Wesley, and that she actually have to spend more time with him in a way. And of course we know Jhonno is human, and the whole thing of the Talarian saying, okay, we will adopt children of the slaughtered parents, of murdered parents by us, it's kind of a hypocrite, you know? Why would you do that? And, well, Jhonno doesn't know anything else than being a Talarian, because we see that through all the episode is that he has this ritual, he has this respect for Captain Picard. That is the same thing, because he respects his father, he respects his captain. And I don't know, it's always like, what are you doing to this boy, you know? By the way, the Talarian captain have played more small roles in Star Trek. I mean, I can recognize him right away. Counselor Troy is also there in the sickbay, and you know, Dr. Crusher is trying to get him to talk, but they going to like doing this ritual, like howling, and they all do that, and the only thing that Counselor Troy can feel is that they are scared. And like I said, I'm wondering if Jhonno, how he would react if he really knows the truth. And I don't know if he just blocked that memory out, that they've been attacked and his parents been killed, etc., etc. And yeah, is he? Why would he? Yeah, I kind of course, it is two ways, of course. In one way, you said, okay, they are good to me, so I will be respectful to them, etc. But on the other hand, they killed his parents, so yeah, what would you do in that situation? We see that Jean-Luc Picard still has some hair here. What is a pretty, well, I don't want to say weird, but yeah. So, also, Ken Picard is the only one who could get through to them, because he is the captain, and the Andorian kids have respect for the captain. And when they found this Talian ship, and I just said Andor, but okay, that's because of the that's why they the planet called. It's like they have this. They are, in fact, cadets that were on. I don't want to say mission, but it was more like preparing for them as becoming a officer. And I remind me right away about that Starfleet has this as well, and I remember that when you see in Star Trek Online, you first are a cadet from just past the academy, and you go on a physical assignment to get experience. Well, this is exactly the same for Jhonno and his friends. Ken Picard and Beverly are talking about Jhonno, and that Jhonno had some injuries from, well, like 7 years ago. And Jhonno, in the next scene, we see Jhonno totally losing control. And in one way, it's Counselor Troy's fault, because she told him to get his gloves off, and he went berserk, meaning that they wanted to really go back to Captain Ende, and I think this is the moment that we already see that Jhonno really is integrated to the Talarian culture, and that is how, yeah, that's the only thing he knows. And I'm not sure how much he knows about his past life as a Federation citizen. And of course we see later in the episode that Jhonno is getting a message from his grandmother, who is a Starfleet admiral. And so when Picard let Jhonno go back to the Talarian, what would her reaction be? You know, it's her long lost grandson who she lost in well, that war, and so I can imagine that would be devastating for the grandma as well, and the family that he still has on Earth. But, you know, Jhonno doesn't know anything else than that. Picard get a message from Starfleet about Jhonno, and so Crusher is ordering Worf to escort Jhonno to his quarters, and he has to stay there till further notice. And Jhonno is, like a teenager who he is bullying in a way with Worf. Like, why are you taking orders from a female? At our planet never will happen that, and females are higher in ranks, and they are nothing, and they are low, etc., etc. So Jhonno is getting a really rude awakening of what equality is between, well, I don't want to say ranks, but like female and male in the future. And I think people who are fan of Star Trek or like Star Trek, I think that is one thing we all like, because we've been equals. We, of course, there are ranks, but it is just anyone. For example, an ensign can be like 15 years old, but it can also be like 80 years old. But it's a more an ideal picture what we people like to conquer in our own life. You know, like no money, equality, everyone is good as they are, etc., etc. And I remember that for me, Star Trek, for me, brings hope. And like I maybe have told you before, I always been bullied, I always was weird, I always was different, etc., etc., etc. And in Starfleet, that isn't, it is there, but it is not a big deal as we still find it nowadays. The senior staff is talking about Jemira, or Jhonno, I have to say. They discovered that he is the grandson of Admiral Rossa, and so they know what happened, etc., etc. And in this scene we see a very amused Dr. Crusher, because Counselor Troy is telling him he needs to connect with his roots, and he has to need a father figure, etc., etc., etc. And so Dr. Crusher is telling Picard, well, he doesn't respond well at women, because the Talians are very patriotic, patronage, and so he only responds well on a male figure, a father figure, and in this case it would be the captain. So Captain Picard need to jump into this, and he is protesting a lot, because we know Captain Picard isn't fond of kids, although we see how more we are going into the seasons, we see that slowly he is opening more to kids, especially to Wesley Crusher. Jhonno is really boisterous, and because he is living with his captain, Captain Picard let him stay in his quarter, and it is really messed up, because I think Jhonno is reacting like that because he's not with his brothers, he's not with his captain, etc., etc. And Then there is this captain, a human captain, that tells him that he is not Talarian and that he is a human and that he needs to find out where he comes from and that he still has family in the Federation and on Earth. So you could see that Jhonno is respecting the orderly of the ranks, and you can see that in one way you could compare him with how it used to be on Earth. And of course nowadays the for example the salary of women and men are still not equal. So what I notice about Jhonno is that he is protesting in a way of how he can, and he thinks he is a prisoner of the Federation and of the Enterprise, and how to cope with it is that on a Talarian way. And now we are at the point that Picard is telling Counselor Troy that he is not suitable for the role as a parent. And I always liked it when one of the females, well, senior females, and as who is, well, I don't want to say defying him, but it's more like putting him on his place. And Counselor Troy is trying to get to a point with him to figuring out why he always been this way around kids. You know, that planet Galen 4, it's, I don't know, it's familiar to me, but I can't place it where it is. The only thing I can remember with Galen or Galen 4 was that Picard's I don't want to say partner, but he had a friend who was also his biological teacher, and I think that was also something with Galen, and that episode is still to be recapped with his that biological thing with Picard. So when Picard is coming back to his quarters and there was this Talarian, well, heavy metal music on, and Jhonno had made himself home. Picard is telling him about him as a little boy and that he is born in Galen 4 and that he still has a grandma, and of course the message from her here. That must be very confusing for Jhonno, because also I think he blocked his whole family away, because I think as a 10-year-old you have memories, and it is sound like that Jhonno isn't or blocking it, and in one way I think that Talarian captain has something to do with it. So if Jhonno has been abused by the captain as like punishing him if he doing something human, then there is of course the result of obeying the captain word for word, and doesn't know anything about his past life. Picard is called to the bridge because the Talarian captain is almost there, and Jhonno wants to come to the bridge, but Picard is forbidding him. And when Picard leaves, Jhonno is looking through the pictures that Picard showed him. And memories of the war and what happened on Game 4 is coming back to him. And we see that he is becoming very anxious, frustrated, angry. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. The Talarian captain is coming aboard, and Picard is speaking to him about Jhonno, and he is dismissing Picard's arguments about Jhonno. And I must say, and I always have said that, I never liked that Talarian captain. Because it's also, it's I got the feeling that he doesn't have respect for life. And how he was saying, yes, well, I was there, I had the troops under my command, and I heard this screaming and crying boy over his mother's body, and so I adopted him or claimed him as my son. And I was thinking, how unethical is that? And I don't know, if you would be a alien, would you do that? Especially after, like, you're killing their parents? I don't know, I don't think I would. But maybe that's my human side, you know? In an agreement, Picard let Ander see Jhonno, but not without supervision. And he does that because he doesn't think Ander is abusing Jhonno. I think I don't like Captain Ander because he is pretty persistent about Jhonno. And I can understand that because to Captain Ander, Jhonno is his son, and it doesn't matter what alien or what skin color you have, it is his son. So I can imagine that he is this, how he is. So this is interesting because Jhonno just got that message from his grandmother, and his grandmother had this allure of, okay, you're the last one and we're so proud of you and you can carry on the Rossa family line and blah 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 blah. And the first thing what Jhonno is asking Picard, she's wearing a Starfleet uniform, what is her rank? And when Picard said, well, she's an admiral, Jhonno was dumbfounded. And he said, she outranked you? And then his reaction was very angry. In the way of, this can't be happening, and what the hell is wrong here? And once again here, I can understand from both ways. From his grandmother's side, it's like, oh God, I got my grandson back. And Jhonno's reaction in the way of, I don't want this. My life is like an Talarian, and that is how I want to live. Jhonno is so angry, and he tells Picard, I am locked here and I can't do anything to get calm, and I'm so angry. So Picard, and this was weird because in the firstly you would ask or say, okay, when Picard is want to calm his thoughts down, he will run because he's a runner. We know that, especially about that those episodes of him running for the academy, and then we saw him teaching Jhonno a sort of futuristic squash, and in one way that is very funny because Jhonno is right away very good at it. While they are playing, Jhonno gets memories back from Galen 4, and he's crying now, and he doesn't know how to cope with it. And Picard is the only one who can calm him a bit down. Picard is talking to Jhonno now, and Jhonno remembers. And Picard is explaining that all the emotions he's feeling now is of because being part of a human. And then we have, of course, the scene in 10 Forward, and I must say that is one of my favorite scenes of this whole episode. It's the banana split scene with Wesley Crusher. And you see that Jhonno is trying and connecting with somebody of his own age, but it is still he finds it difficult. That night, Jhonno stabbed Picard when he was sleeping, and it's become a very difficult and strange situation. When Picard is talking to Jhonno, it was clear that Captain Picard had made a mistake and saw that Jhonno actually really loved Ender, and he was a Talarian instead of a human. With all the things that was coming, Captain Picard said, okay, let's get you home. Also the Captain Ender was threatening Riker, because Riker was in command at the moment that Picard was in the sickbay, and so they furthered a war just in the nick of time. And Picard is taking Jhonno to the transport room, and that is the first time Jhonno will put his gloves off and saying goodbye to Picard as a Talarian. So he will put his head against Picard. And well, I think the moral of this episode is that you need to consider how somebody else feels or what his experience is. Because what we see here on Jhonno is that he does remember things, but he looks like a Talarian now, so his past doesn't matter. The only thing that matters here is that he lost Captain Ender and that he has a new life, etc. And to force him to come back to Earth and live with his family, human family, is a bit of, you can't, sorry, I forgot the word what I was saying. I have it in my head, but I can't speak it out now. But what I mean is, you can't do that to somebody who already is used to and accustomed to other species, culture and living, etc. And we see that with see that with here when since I have been moved over to England. There are still things that are causing troubles of culture, but also like let me give you an example. My me being Dutch, and where Dutch people are known for is their directness. And so I need to tell people time after time that I'm from the Netherlands, and maybe I'm so direct. Maybe they think it is rude, but to me it's a directness. And I experience time after time that people find me rude just because I don't use or know the British culture things, or how to act like a Brit, like it, if I can say it like that. Well, me being direct is just how I know, and I don't think that's gonna change. Don't think it's gonna change. Every Dutch who lives here in England would change their directness to people or to things. And so that is the same a bit of with Jhonno as well, because Jhonno doesn't know anything else than the directness from or just he just only know how to be Talian. I totally forgot to check what the IMDb rating is, so bear with me, I'm going to check it now. And the rating is a 6.4 on IMDb. I must say, I give it a little bit higher, like a 7, because I do like the message in this episode and how the bond is between Captain Ender and Jhonno. So it's also something you can use and talk about nowadays, because it's still value in that way. So yeah, I give it a 7. I don't know what your rating for this is, so let me know in the comments what your rating is for this episode, and why, of course. Because it is something that I like to know, and maybe we can have a discussion about it. So comment in the comment section, and on every comment I will react, of course, but yeah, maybe we can have a nice discussion about this episode. So thank you guys for listening, and join me in 2 weeks for a new episode recap. In the next episode we will recap the episode Remember Me, and if I'm correct, that is the episode with Beverly Crusher. Tracking Around is to listen on Spotify, Amazon Music, on the Facebook group, and YouTube channel. For the next few episodes, I'm still looking for a track friend who would like to recap with me. And the episodes are, of course, from Star Trek TNG Season 4. And that is the episode Legacy, Reunion, and Future Imperfect. So let me know if you'd like to be my guest. Hope you do, cause it's always nicer to have a guest to recap and talk about the episode. And well, I will see you in 2 weeks. Live long and prosper.